Thank you, Jennifer. I want to welcome everybody to the Centerville City Council meeting being held on October 3rd at Centerville City Hall. We welcome those that are joining us online and welcome those that are in person as well. We're excited about some of the things that are on our agenda tonight. Let's make sure that we can conduct a meeting and take votes, make sure we have a quorum here. So we'll start with a voice roll call with Councilwoman Meekum.
Meekum, present.
Yentz, present.
Summerhays, present.
Hurst, present.
McEwen, present.
Thank you, council members. All five are present tonight, and we're thankful and grateful that you're here. Let's start with the legislative prayer or thought by Councilmember Summerhays.
Thanks, Mayor. I've asked Jennifer to help me out a little bit with some of our visual. Some of you may know that I had a chance to be out of the country for 9-10 days. On your screens you'll see these are my third great-grandparents with my second great-grandfather, Frischniks from Switzerland. The second photo would be also third and second great-grandparents, Rusches from Switzerland. So I just a few days ago returned from Switzerland, and of course I think anybody probably would look forward to a visit more, and for me it was more than just the mountains and the glaciers and cliffs and waterfalls, and I could go on: cheese, chocolate, trains, trams, you know, on and on and on. But I was also excited to go back to a place where some of my ancestors came from, that included these last names: Frischnick, Reusch, Zellweger, and Niederer. I'm not sure, probably, I don't speak German, so I probably even not pronouncing those quite yet right. But while I was there, I felt a bond to these ancestors more than I fully expected I would be there. So, Jennifer, the next few photos are some of the photos that I took while I was there. And obviously, an iPhone photo isn't even quite a professional camera, is not quite as it is in person, but definitely spectacular. And you can go through those, Jennifer, slowly, because I learned one of my best presentation techniques in city council or planning commission meetings from our great city attorney, Lisa Romney, who's always so good about travel logging and teaching good lessons along the way. But you know, here in Utah this time of year, we dry up, we get yellow. Luckily this fall has been amazing. We got out on a drive over the weekend. George was referring to it as beautiful, but in Switzerland it is still green and lush. It is just gorgeous, and it was quite a trip of a lifetime. In stark contrast, just the day after we arrived home, there was a high school mountain bike race in Manti. Gina also had the pleasure of being in Manti, and Manti is the same exact place where these ancestors that you've seen in the prior photos settled after joining the Mormon Church and traveling across an ocean and a continent. So this is the picture of Manti on Saturday. A little different viewpoint within just a couple of days. Saturday in Manti was dry and dusty and windy, and though I'm sure we would all think if we drove through Manti in that valley, it's a pretty valley, but obviously falls far, far short of what I had just come from in Switzerland. So I thought of how these ancestors must have felt as they arrived in these new surroundings. Did they long to immediately pack their bags and go back to Switzerland, or did they wish they had never come? And I surely wouldn't fault them if they had some of those feelings, but in all the journals and histories that I've read, I've never seen any complaint. They were just tough, conservative, hardworking people, and I just felt this incredibly deep appreciation for how they've established what I'm a beneficiary of their sacrifice and work. And I think that ties into what we're beneficiaries of in our lives here in Centerville. You know, we live in a great community. We have a well that still now is operational because of great staff, and that was founded long before we came here. And I think it ties into a thought that I'm certainly would be wearing red and not blue, but BYU President Rex Lee once said that we've all drunk from wells we did not dig and warmed ourselves by fires that we did not build. And I think it shows, at least for me, I'm humbled by it, and I'm also deeply grateful for what a lot of these pioneer ancestors set up for ourselves and that we are beneficiaries of. So I share that with you with the thought that we have great heritage here in Centerville, whether it be 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 50 or 100 years and more, that we as a council try to do our very best to further that.
Thank you.
That's all I got.
Appreciate that. I struck by those pictures of Switzerland, is those buildings look like they've been there for 50 or 60 years, I guess. They don't have people flocking to Switzerland to live like we did in the U.S., I guess.
They're beautiful buildings.
Yeah, beautiful area. Yeah, that's always meaningful when you can especially go and have it be the homeland of where your ancestors come from and have some of that background. So really appreciate that, Councilman Summerhays. All right, if you'd all rise with me and repeat the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, now we're at the spot of the agenda where we have the open session. We don't have any public hearings tonight, so if anything's on your mind, please, this is your chance now to come up to the pulpit, identify yourself and where you're from, and try and keep your comments to two or 3 minutes. So that open session is now available.
Hello, Mayor,
Hello.
council members, ladies and gentlemen, residents of Centerville. My name is Brian Plummer. I live at 898 South 600 East here in Centerville. I just wanted to introduce myself to you. I am deeply honored to have the chance to serve as one of Centerville City's council members, albeit through unusual circumstances. I wanted to express my sincere gratitude for this opportunity and extend my heartfelt thanks to both Bill Ince and George McEwen for their years of dedicated service. Drawing upon my experience serving on the Landmark Commission and as a Centerville baseball coach, I hope to contribute effectively to our community. I eagerly await working alongside each of you as we strive for a brighter future for our city. To the people of Centerville, I would like to say that your trust and your support are important to me. I'm committed to earning both as we work together to make our city better. Thank you. I understand that it's a little premature given the fact that we haven't gone through the procedure, but I thought I would nevertheless say it tonight as opposed to a couple weeks from now. But thank you, and I look forward to working with you all in the couple months.
Thank you, Brian. We appreciate you coming forth. I've tried to catch you a couple times at other meetings, and we've had closed sessions or something, and so I haven't been able to catch up with you. But thanks for introducing yourself.
Thank you.
All of us. Anyone else for the open session? Anybody online? All right, we'll move on from the open session. We're excited about our presentations tonight. Our first presentation is going to be a report of our Centerpoint Theater from our new executive director, Danny Hinckley, or Inkley, sorry.
Whatever you want.
So Dan, I know it's Inkley, I just missed up the photos with the church stuff, you know.
Yeah,
So,
I get it all the
introduce
time.
yourself
I used to get it more, not as much now.
Introduce yourself for us. Tell us what's going on at Centerpoint.
Sure.
We're thrilled to have you here tonight.
Yeah, Just a couple of minutes. I'm Danny Inkley, and just by way of introduction, my wife and I live here in Centerville. We live just on 4th West, just a mile north of Center Point. It used to be a mile north of Dairy Queen, and that was a tough day in my life when that changed. I want to say that this is home to us, and we have great pride in this community. My kids they go to school here. They've attended and are attending Centerville Junior High. They'll all graduate from Viewmont High School. We're really just grateful to be a part of this community. This place is special to us. I have a deep kind of history with the theater here. The predecessor to this was Rogers Memorial. Before that, it was Pages Lane Theater over here in the strip mall. My mother and her brother, Ralph Rogers, actually founded that theater, Pages Lane Theater, in 1990. And the first show there was Cheaper by the Dozen, and that callback for that show was held in my living room up on the bench in Bountiful. And believe it or not, I was cast in the show. I got lucky, I guess. So from the very beginning, I've been involved with this organization that became Rogers Memorial Theater that, again, had this huge expansion with the community's support and obviously what the public has done into Centerpoint Theater. So my roots go very deep with this organization, and I'm just so grateful and humbled for the opportunity to continue to contribute. My wife, Wendy, and I ran the Centerpoint Academy for 8 years. That organization now has more than 1,000 students from 700 families that participate in musical theater training and everything that's related to that. Centerpoint is a special place. It has, for a lot of different reasons, but if I could just say two. The things that I'm trying to emphasize as far as our mission or our brand promise in an abbreviated way is this idea of stories that connect us. And if you think about the power of a story, if you think about your own life and the most important lessons you've learned or certain things that's inspired you, I would assume that for the vast majority of us, some story has taught you or inspired you in some way. Some of the most important things you'll ever learn are through stories. Our brains are wired for this. So it's our job at Centerpoint to tell those stories. That's what we do. But the reason theater is cool, the reason theater is, in my opinion, superior to binging Netflix or going to Megaplex or whatever, is this idea of connection. Where if I binge Netflix, I'm going to have a great time and I'm going to go to bed and I'm going to be a little bit empty from the Stranger Things marathon or whatever. If I go to theater, I connect to real people doing real things. And I connect to the people that I attend with. Even if I go alone, I'm connected to the people in that environment. So stories are powerful, and theater is a really unique way that stories make a difference because of the unique power of connection that is offered. And I think that's our role and responsibility in this community. If I try to boil it down to one thing, it is to make the people better, to inspire them, to entertain them, to have them share compassion and understanding through the stories that we tell. And sometimes that's in a really ridiculous way. Sometimes I think it's in a really profound way, but I think that's the difference that we make, and that's our obligation, to share that with as many people as we can. Theater's going great. Jekyll and Hyde is currently on the stage. That's a real toe tapper. For those of you that like darkness, that's the one to come see. After that is White Christmas, and then we have our 2024 season. Just by way of numbers, and I'm sure you're aware of some of these things, but Centerpoint, last year we had well over 100,000 patron visits. Well over 100,000 patron visits. We're currently renewing season tickets. For 2024, we're going to have 10,000 season ticket holders at Centerpoint Theater. I don't know how many things in the state have 10,000 season ticket holders, but we're super proud of that. Again, the Academy's, it's 1,000 students from 700 families. About 20% of our patrons typically are coming from Centerville. That's both in the Academy and in just the patron base. But I was talking to Mayor Wilkinson a few weeks ago just about other mayors in the county and just the asset that Centerpoint, I think, is to our community, the unique asset that it is, and the impact that we have in this area. And I'm talking North Salt Lake, clear to the Canadian border. I mean, we are a unique organization. We make a unique difference. And I think my job is just to continue the awesome work that's been done there and hopefully to enhance some things that we do as well. Tell our story better to more people, and that's our job. Share the goodness that we have with as many people as we can. So I'm optimistic about that and just looking forward to all of it.
You up to fielding questions, if anybody has any? Anybody have any questions for Danny?
No, he's amazing.
I'll tell you this, I have the opportunity to be on the board, and as we went through the process of finding a new executive director, Danny sure did present well and stood out well, and his love of Centerpoint and obviously of our city as well too is pretty amazing. And so when I met with him, like he was just referring to a few weeks back, his vision too of some things that we can do there with just the present structure that we have is pretty incredible as well too. So
Yeah, my objective is to use the space that we have rather than any kind of expansion. There may be some of that in the further future, but my objective is I think there's space there that we haven't utilized that we can really leverage into some awesome stuff without construction or expansion of the actual facility. Some improvements to some of the building, but nothing that's a major construction project.
Mayor, when I heard that Danny was going to be the new executive director, I was super excited about it because our oldest daughter is a thespian and rubbed shoulders with Danny's children, and we were just really excited about it. So congratulations, Danny. We're looking forward to it.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I would encourage council members and everybody in the audience, not only go to their main stage shows, but some of these children productions from the children from the academy and the smaller stage are really fun.
Oh,
and
yeah.
really enjoyable.
They're face melters. Those kids are amazing. I mean, there's 1,000 of them, so there's a lot of talent in that group. And
Why you have to have the speed bumps?
exactly right.
Not just for Chick-fil-A.
What do you see as your biggest single challenge?
I think that it's a really great question. I think that my role as executive director is to oversee the organization, but particularly provide the resources that the organization needs to thrive, right? And I think there are improvements that we can make in our marketing and just the story that we tell. I think there are people probably within earshot that don't really know what this building is, that have never set foot in it. And man, once they set foot in it, I think they see. But I think that's one thing. I think the second thing is just we do a really good job of generating revenue to continue to grow on our own, ticket sales and academy operation. But the average nonprofits arts organization nationally has a 40% contributed revenue. 40% of the revenue is contributed, so donations, sponsorships, public assistance, all that. At Centerpoint, that number is 18% right now. We're 22% below the national average in contributed revenue for a nonprofits arts organization. And I think there's great opportunities for us to just tell our story better. I think there are people that are willing to contribute in those ways, and we just need to do a better job of making sure they know that there are opportunities to be involved in that way. The community support is amazing. I just think we can do a better job of giving people more opportunities to participate in that way. So I see that as my number one challenge, but yeah, opportunity, I think.
Introduce yourself to Bruce Cox. I know you already have.
Oh, yeah.
Because you and Bruce and the HVAC system will become great friends down there.
Yes.
Hopefully we got it to the point that,
Oh, yeah, it's great.
Yeah,
We
good.
can't get enough of the HVAC system every day.
so thank you, Danny. Thank you for the enthusiasm that you bring to it. It is a huge asset in our community. I mean, every month as I meet with bears, I mean, they talk about going to the shows at Centerpoint,
Yeah,
you know, and others, so, yeah, so, thank you.
going, thank you.
All right, we have, gonna, move the 4th of July parade report in a couple of weeks as, the chairs, co-chairs were unable to make it. So let's go to the UDOT I-15 environmental impact statement study update. So, We have representatives from UDOT here. You guys just want to introduce yourselves and you got listening ears ready for you.
Great, thank you. My name's Brandon Weston, I'm with UDOT. I am a member of the I-15 EIS team. I'm here tonight with Justin Smart, colleague also on the I-15 EIS team. And we're here just to give you an update on where we're at and what the next steps are. We appreciate the opportunity to come and share that with you today. And thank you. Next slide, please. So today's topics are going to be the I-15 EIS process, talk to you about the draft EIS release and what that means and what the public comment process looks around that, and take any questions and have some discussion at the end. So from the very beginning, we as a foundation, we started it with Utah's transportation vision, which lays out quality of life through transportation through these 4 pillars. So we are looking to improve the quality of life for all users, not just those in cars. And that's represented by that graphic on, next slide, please. I'm sorry, my fault. That graphic on the right. Next slide, please.
Oh, sorry.
So with that foundation in mind, we also took a look at what's planned for these, for this corridor in the future. Not only I-15 itself, but what other major infrastructure projects, transportation projects are on the 30-year plan. So on that plan are things like double tracking of Front Runner, electrification of Front Runner, extend the Legacy Parkway Trail, and 30 other active transportation projects. But other large ones include the West Davis Corridor extension, widening of I-80, I-215, Redwood Road, and Legacy Parkway. And so I tell you that to tell you that all these major improvements in the 30-year plan are assumed to be in and functioning and in place before we put I-15 in the mix and see what the needs of I-15 are. And with that, we took that information and did some review of the corridor, and as you may know that it's quite an old stretch of I-15 through a lot of Davis County. There's a mixture of concrete and asphalt along the roadway. A lot of the asphalt's the concrete's 50 years old. Some of it's beyond its lifespan. There's also some old bridges that have been there beyond their functional life, and also the drainage system along this area of I-15 in need of severe repair. One of the main things that we set out to accomplish was to deal with congestion on I-15, both now and in the future. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. I'm horrible at this. I'm just, sorry.
Right.
I apologize. So one of the main things along the corridor that's been a concern is the congestion that we experience even today. So in 2019, the AM southbound, it took you 18 minutes from Farmington to 400 South, and in northbound, same stretch, 19 minutes in the PM peak. We project by 2050 that the southbound AM peak is going to take 55 minutes, and conversely, the northbound direction in the PM peak will be 66 minutes. And quite a meaningful change in those numbers in just a few years. And this is due to, as you well know, Utah's rapid growth, population increase, all of the like. And we expect that to continue. Next slide, please. Another thing, just being an older stretch of interstate, a lot of the safety standards are not there anymore. You'll see a lot of the interstate without shoulders, where a car that is disabled could get off and out of traffic. There's also some sharp curves. The geometry is not up to date, where we see a lot of safety issues due to some of these inadequacies. Next slide, please. We also took a look at all the interchanges up and down the corridor. A lot of those are dated as well. We see a lot of issues around those. Some of them are traffic backing on the ramp onto mainline I-15, which is where we see the most severe accidents due to the speed discrepancy. And also, when there's that congestion at the interchanges, it pushes interstate traffic onto the local system and hinders that system from being able to accommodate pedestrians, bicyclists, and other folks that aren't in a car. So speaking of that, next slide, please. We took a look with community groups and went on walking tours and looked at some of these limited connections for people that are not in vehicles, people that are walking, biking, rolling, or trying to get to public transit. So we looked for better ways to connect people across I-15, see where we could improve those connections, and maybe even places where there ought to be new ones. Next slide, please. And so this informed our purpose and need, and it is around those 4 pillars of quality of life that we talked about earlier. I won't read these, they're available on our website. I'm sure you've seen them before, but these were the ways that we identified our alternatives, were the ability to meet these goals and provide benefits to all users. Next slide, please. So on I-15, we looked at 2 options. The first option, option A, you can see it's 226 feet wide. It's 5 through lanes in each direction and 1 HOT lane in each direction, which is the high-capacity toll. Option B was also 5 through lanes in each direction and 2 HOV lanes, but they were put in the middle to be reversible lanes, northbound in the afternoon, southbound in the morning. So reversible HOT lanes was the concept there. And you can see the cross-section there was 242 feet. So we did consider those options, and I'll finish this thought off when we get to the metrics, and maybe those cross-section widths will make a little bit more difference to you. Next slide, please. So here's the metrics behind those 2 options I just showed you. So top of the table on the right, those are the 2019 numbers. We call those existing, those are pre-COVID numbers. The no build, just under that, 55 and 56 miles per hour, or minutes of travel respectively. Option A in 2050 gets that down to 28 minutes in the southbound direction and 30 minutes in the northbound direction. Option B, as you can see, gets us down a little bit shorter time, about 7 minutes shorter in the southbound peak and 8 minutes shorter in the northbound peak. And you can see that the numbers kind of correlate over to miles per hour, so the average speed in that next table kind of says the same story. One thing that's interesting here is, am I done? Yeah, okay. So,
No, that's not you. You're gone.
kidding. Even with that higher performance of that option B that we just looked at, UDOT's chosen to go with the option A, which is a smaller cross-section. And what that does is it limits the amount of impact that we have to provide that benefit. We didn't think that the benefit, that 7 to 8 minute benefit, was worth the additional impacts that project would have, both to communities, homes, natural resources, and all the like, to warrant it.
That decision was just made a few weeks ago, correct?
Probably a little sooner than that. And it's a recommendation, not necessarily a decision.
Oh, it's not a final?
No, this is a draft.
Well,
so-
sorry.
Right.
In terms of
That's what's
the
in the
hot
draft today.
lane, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Next slide, please. And so with that in mind, the I-15 cross-section, we also looked at a lot of things for other users that are not using the highway, and we looked for things that would help them get through the transportation system and also help them get to where they needed to be. And so we looked at things for the ability to slow things down for pedestrians so they feel a little bit safer crossing some of these facilities, and also minimizing their exposure, so where they could feel more comfortable, have a longer sight distance, and keep their connections a little bit more direct, less out of direction travel for them, to make other modes more attractive and make sure we could provide access to more users. And so this list on the right-hand side is a list of improvements that we are proposing as part of the preferred alternative for pedestrians and non-motorized use, so bicycles, peds, anything that rolls, walks. Also, next slide, please. We looked at all the interchanges, and we looked at multiple options at multiple interchanges. These aren't all of them, just to give you an example of all of them that what they look like and the many different options that we do have. So I encourage you and your constituents to go and take a look at our website, and they'll be able to pop through all of these options, multiple options at multiple interchanges, right? And see what their thoughts are and give us some feedback on those. So,
And sorry to interrupt, but
yeah, please.
Tiffany was here, was it?
3 months
3
ago?
months.
June?
Yeah, and we went through interchange options with her.
Yep.
And I think there was a preferred option that aligned with your preferred option
Okay.
at the time, so
Yeah.
hopefully that sticks.
I hope so too.
Okay.
Let's take a look and see if it's not in there. Coming up with those options, we interacted with all of the cities. We got together, next slide, please. Got together with multiple community groups. We created things that are called local area working groups and had meetings with them before all of our major milestones. So really went out of our way to try to engage the public as much as possible, probably more than we ever have in the past, trying to get as much participation from as much of the communities as we could. Next slide, please. And these are some pictures from the open houses that we held around this time last year. I think it was November. We got a lot of good participation, had a lot of good input. And we're going to do kind of the same strategy this time. We placed hundreds of flyers out on and posters through the corridor. We put up lawn signs at strategic locations. We posted notices at across the study area, notices on UDOT's social media channels. We distributed like 10,000 mailers to residents and businesses, and visited and presented at city council meetings and other formal organizations. So we're back to doing what worked last year. And next slide, please. And we're also, in terms of trying to go, try to make it more convenient and better, more accessible to people, we provided some resources to the public to help get them there, free transportation, some food, some kid care at the meetings, try to be, make sure we had everything in English and Spanish and interpreters on location. We have content on our website, English and Spanish, with targeted social media ads, and keeping our meetings kind of centralized to the corridor where the actual project is and where the people are to make it more accessible. Next slide, please. Just kind of a list of what we did last year around this time, and we plan to do something much similar this time around. Next slide, please. So all of that information from last November and all the dialogue with the communities went into the alternative screening process, and that's what we went through last year. And so you've seen this graphic before. And so all those alternatives went into this screening tape, or this screening matrix, and only those that passed level 1 and 2 were advanced for detailed feedback, or detailed analysis, excuse me. So with all of that, next slide, please. Mainly here to tell you that we got the draft environmental impact statement out. It was released on Friday of last week. We are going to have some open, I'll get to that in a minute. I would just encourage folks that when they do get to this website and start to review it, read the executive summary first. It might help steer you to where you want to have more detailed information, because the detailed information is there as well. It can be a little overwhelming unless you know what you're searching for, but by all means read all of it and comment on all of it. Next slide, please. So in terms of public comment periods, we're going to be running the public comment period from September 29th to November 13th. We have an in-person comment period, or in-person public meetings on October 17th and 18th. The first one on the 18th is at State Fair Park in the Bonneville building, and the 19th at South Davis Rec Center in Davis County. On that previous Monday, October 16th, will be a virtual public meeting where anybody can log in and get the same content, but you won't get the same type of interaction that you would face-to-face, if that makes sense. Next slide, please. So in terms of, we'll take any public comment. We want to hear what people have to say. We want to know what they think. Put this together just to maybe give folks ideas if they're wondering on how to comment or what I should be thinking about when I come up with a comment. These are just suggestions. We would take any comment, but the more specific a comment can be with regard to its location and the problem that's being experienced at that location is much more helpful. Next slide, please. This is the study team's contact information, multiple ways to get a hold of us. Please don't hesitate to reach out. We're happy to meet with groups and share our message and hear what folks have to say. Next slide, please. This is just a slide kind of informing the process. We've been everywhere from the left all the way up to we are now at the release of the draft EIS. And so next steps from here is we'll go through the public comment period. We will gather all those comments. We'll put them together. We will review them. We will develop responses, and in cases, we will go in and make those changes where they have, where they make sense. And with that, I think the next slide should be the end. Thank you. Any questions?
Still on target for construction,
We are
26-ish?
still on schedule.
Okay.
Got a unique question for you. You guys have done very well at getting around to the public meetings, online, I mean, just not with government officials, but with the whole public in general. So, do you know of any cases where that public input has helped shape this environmental impact study and what's been released?
Yeah, and this one in particular already. So I would say if you look at even the Salt Lake City portion of this project, we've been able to work with that community to get that cross-section to somewhere where we think they're going to be comfortable with it. But not only that, on 600 North, we're taking a look at that interchange, which is now a spooey, and maybe making that a tight diamond, which is better for pedestrians, it's better for sight distance. It's not as good for traffic, though. So we're going to sacrifice a little bit of that to make some of our other goals come to benefit all users, which is really needed in that area, and to provide more connectivity. And I'm going to stake in Salt Lake just for a minute, because the other one is we're looking at a new crossing at 5th South. There's a big gap between 6 South and 4 South, where there's no permeability across I-15 for pedestrians. We think something makes sense through there. Some of the communities for it and some's not. And so we took that out of the EIS and we funded a study run by the city to take a look at what those residents really want in the long term in that area. And we made a commitment to come back once that study's done. And if they decide that they want a crossing in there and it's going to be a benefit to their community, then fine, we're happy to open that back up and maybe add it. But for right now, our position is we're not going to push that because there was a lot of resistance to the folks that we were trying to help, you know? And so that feedback was really meaningful to us, and we were able to make some small changes in some cases and big changes in others that really made a difference. Another one up in your neck of the woods might be Farmington. We had in the alternatives phase, we had some improvements shown on, is it 4th? Farmington, yeah. Yeah, and got a lot of pushback that we didn't expect from folks there. As we, you know, the new Farmington High School's on the west side of the freeway, huge population on the east side. Well, just from a layperson, you're like, well, population high school, right? Let's connect those. Well, that's not what they wanted, and doesn't really turn out to be true. They don't all go there, and most of that push was from other areas in the further west that are traveling in there. So we were able to provide some options there that didn't have those impacts to that road and those houses along there. And so there's that kind of iteration that can come from feedback. Just not looking at the numbers and having a stone cold goal of that we're going to meet this level of service at any cost. That the input and the feedback that we've had during this project has probably had more meaningful change than I've seen in quite a while.
Thank you. Other questions?
All right, thank you.
Thanks for your presentation, appreciate it.
Pleasure.
Thank you. All right, let's move to the business item section of the agenda. The first item is cancellation of the 2023 municipal general election resolution 2023-23. Any explanation needed on this? And who wants to do that for us?
Whatever.
Yes, well, as you know, we only have 3 candidates for the next election for the 3 seats. So we do not need to hold the general election. So we did not have a primary election, and now we will not have the general election. So according to state law, the council can adopt a resolution canceling the municipal election. And so we will not have any election at all. And so that's the recommendation. And also the resolution provides for certifying those candidates that will be deemed elected, which is Robin Meekum, Brian Plummer, and Shaylin Heyman. So we are recommending that you adopt this resolution canceling the election and certifying those candidates as elected. The other thing I just wanted to bring up is there is still some debate about whether you need to file your campaign finance disclosure forms. The election officials from the Lieutenant Governor's office are saying you do not have to file those. I question that. I don't think the statute is that clear. So we're waiting for confirmation from them, but potentially you would have to file a 28-day before the election, 7-day before the election, and 30 days after the election. The statute says, it's very clear if there's no primary election, here's what we do with campaign finance disclosure forms and when you need to file. You don't have to file them if there's no primary. But it doesn't have a similar provision in the statute if you don't have a municipal general election. So I think the state is probably saying, well, we're just going to use this by example, but I'd like clearer direction. So just be on hold. We may be sending something out that you need to file those, or we'll provide information to you that you do not have to provide those. It won't be very difficult, which is sort of my personality. If it's not difficult, why take the risk? Let's just file them and not have any controversy. But I guess there could be some controversy that, if you don't want to file. So we'll get some confirmation on that, see what a majority of the cities are doing, and let you know. The city recorder is required to give you notice 35 days before the election that these campaign finance disclosure forms are due. So that's sort of our deadline. I think we'll be looking and we'll let you know by October 17th. That's our 35 days out. So we'll have this decided by then. So, but hopefully you haven't spent too much money on your campaign.
So just be prepared potentially to file them, okay? Better safe than sorry type of thing. Now, this was kind of really unique to me because I wasn't sure that if you still had to have an election, everybody had to at least get one vote, But this is telling us that, no, through this resolution, we can just certify the candidates.
Yes.
Yeah. Any further questions for Lisa on this resolution?
Nope.
Do we-
I'll make a motion.
Okay.
I make a motion that we adopt Resolution 2023-23, canceling the 2023 municipal general election.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Let's roll call vote. Councilman Meekum.
Aye.
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 That motion passes
Yeah, what
unanimously.
a smooth road for these.
Congratulations.
Gosh.
I don't know,
So,
Robin. it
Mr.
might
Plummer,
have
you were
been
not
from that one.
presumptuous.
We should have done open session right after we passed this resolution. So, okay.
You
well,
could do an open session and let Ms. Amon say anything if she wants to. Yeah.
Speech, we want speeches.
Platform.
Okay, let's move on to the SMART grant. Mike, Kevin, you guys want to get up here and talk to us about the SMART grant? Huh? So this is a resolution of support for the Water SMART grant.
Yes, so the Ferguson Group is helping us write the grant application. This is a application for water resiliency, so they're accepting applications that help your water system become more drought tolerant and resilient to the drought. I think it's most of the western states are eligible. We have selected we're hoping that we might be able to get funding to drill a new well in the Centerville Canyon area. We have the old Porter Lane well that has been out of use for quite some time. I don't know how many years, Mike might know. But we want to try to replace that well somewhere south of Porter Lane and somewhere between maybe second east to fourth east. That's the area where we've had studied, a geologist has studied that area for us. We've looked at a half a dozen different properties that might be decent spots to drill a well. So again, we're working with the Ferguson Group. We're providing the information so that they can write the grant. But it's basically a well that is in that area. We don't feel that we've really tapped that aquifer. It might be similar aquifer to the church well, but we feel like we've had a pretty good success with alternating our wells and letting the aquifers recover. That's been a strategy that we've used. We know that it's been working. There's other cities in Davis County, especially South Davis County, that are not able to do that, and they're really depleting their aquifers, and their aquifers are dropping drastically. They're not able to recover. So that's the basic project that we're looking at. We're calling it Porter Lane Replacement Well, or Centerville Canyon Area Well is what we're calling it. And we think we'll probably have to go down about 500 to 700 feet, similar to the most recent well we drilled was the Chase Lane well on the Griffiths property. That one we had to go down about 700 feet. The grant amount is $3 million, and it's a 50% cost share. This is a project that is in our master plan. So we've funded it in the master plan, but we're hoping that we can use the federal funds to offset half of that. You want to add anything to that?
No, I pretty well
When
covered
would
it.
it be awarded if it were to be awarded?
It would probably, I think it's maybe towards the end of this year. They want us to get with the property owner. We've identified one of the 6 properties. We're meeting with that property owner this Thursday. We're hoping to solidify we have to get a letter of kind of consideration from that property owner for the grant. So that's something we're trying to pin down. But, you know, you could possibly drill the well next summer and then build the pump house the following summer.
So from a timing perspective, if we had some indication later this year, that's something we would be able to include in next year's budget. That's really what I was getting at.
Yes, I think that would be the timing, is
Yeah.
that maybe fall of '24, you would try to drill the well, and then maybe the following year. It might even take a year and a half to get the well drilled and another year to get the pump house built.
Speaking of grants and money,
That's what my question was gonna be.
do we actually have the water tank money yet?
The one for the reservoir,
The green tank?
Maintain?
I think we're getting pretty close. It feels like it.
In other words, no.
Well,
The way that the money comes in, it's actually the way we understand it is we apply for the grant, we owe them a budget spreadsheet. We have most of the information to them. The way I'm understanding is that they want on your budget, they want to know when you're going to be spending money, because that's when they reimburse. So it's not, here's your 1.5 million, go do your project.
They almost want to see your draw schedule?
It's get your project bid out. It might almost be the city pays the contractor and then they reimburse the city once they see those expenses. So we're still working through that. We've been awarded the 1.5, but I don't think it's one of those where they put that money in the bank for the city. It's as you spend it, they reimburse, is my understanding right now.
So they don't necessarily like participate in a bond type situation, like where it goes into an escrow account?
That's a good question, and we're still sorting through that. We owe them a budget cost sheet. I told them I'd be more comfortable once we got a bid from a contractor, because I would know what the price is. So we're getting prepared to bid it out and get a bid from a contractor.
Didn't we
Dealing with
think we
the-
were gonna just get the money in our, I mean, you kept saying to us, well, we think it'll be here in a week or 2 weeks or a month, or, I mean, I
Yeah,
thought.
I don't know
that
if-
Kevin said it, it was others that said it.
Yeah, but it was said to us that, yeah, the money
Yeah,
should be here next month or whatever, and so that's not the way it's.
we've kind of found that, I mean, dealing with the grant as far as it goes, we felt like we were gonna get the money all at once, and we actually even had to refile again. We had the grant there, but we had to refile everything. So we've actually refiled the second time, right, way that I understand it, so we're just working back through it again.
But we
So,
have been
but-
awarded the grant.
We've been awarded the grant.
The
We
money's
have to,
ours.
we do have to still reapply. Once the budget worksheet is complete, everything else has been passed off, but dealing with the EPA takes a lot of time. I guess that's the best way to put it. And they haven't done earmarks in such a long time that they're relearning the process from, I don't know when the last time was, maybe it was 8 or 10 years ago. So they're also learning how they want to process things. And Mike and I are learning along the way as well. So we're just trying to continue to push it along.
We feel pretty confident too. They've used a lot of our drawings in their samples for other cities, other entities that are getting it. So that was pretty educational for us. We're going through and, oh, wait a second, why is our drawing in there? And then kind of find out it's a sample that they're sending out to everybody else. So I feel like we're on track pretty well. It's just getting them to finish up everything.
Are you
And get the
planning,
price.
are you planning to pre-bid, like, do select contractors that are qualified? What type of tank is this, is the design done?
This is a concrete, reinforced concrete tank. It's about 100-foot diameter by 20 feet tall.
You're saying do an RFQ
Cylindrical.
before bidding, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm
sometimes
asking,
we-
is are you
some-
going to do that?
That's a good question. Sometimes we will pre-qualify. It is easier to pre-qualify than to have somebody submit a bid and then disqualify them on a big project. So that's a good question. We probably ought to do that. Yes.
I would
I
like
would
it on a
recommend that.
concrete tank.
Okay.
I think that would be wise.
Makes it easier for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've done that before in the past on specialized projects, so that's a good point. I think we ought to do that as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
We hope to bid the tank out. We're shooting for January. So that's we're pushing, and we have to submit permits to the state. We have to submit our plans and our bid documents to the state for their review.
Well, we
So,
even have some of the city stuff we gotta wrap up too, with Corey
Yeah.
and that, so, yeah.
When is this Water Smart grant due? What's the deadline on this well project?
the end of October, around the end of October, but Mike and I have to have our information to them in the next week or two.
Okay.
And if it's a 50% match and it's a $3 million project, I mean, are we talking about a bond at that point? Is that the thought? I mean, we don't have 3 million reserved for it.
I think that you'd have to have $1.5 million, and you might have to postpone some of your other water projects that year and put all your money towards drilling a well,
Okay, that makes
if that's what was decided.
Okay.
But this is part of the master plan, so you just be shuffling some projects around and,
Correct.
Okay, yeah.
do you feel like we have enough in our enterprise, our water enterprise fund to handle that, given the time frame?
It might have to be we'd have to look at it, it might have to be a 2025 drilling of the well if they didn't have the funds to supplement. I think Brant has mentioned that he could supplement some water funds from the general fund possibly, but
Fund
if
47.
not, it would be one where we would just have to
Fund
kick it to the
47.
next year.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm asking these questions because that's just food for thought for
Will
you
that
as
affect
you.
the water, the grant if you have to bump the year?
We'd have to read through the wording, but I think they give you 3 years to complete a project of that size. We need to take that into consideration, though. That's a great point.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you got that, because even with the Water Smart grant that we got for the meters and radios, that was a 2-year grant. We had 2 years to complete it, so.
Yeah, you'll get some time, I think, but I'm sure just because we're looking at it and plan for it. Kudos to you guys in Ferguson Group for doing this. These are complicated grants, and if we can get that funding, that's huge benefit to the city.
It's huge, but it's a lot of work. It's like, I never
They
realized
are
how much work it was.
extremely difficult to work through, so.
Mike and I have mentioned before that if you're not getting over $1 million,
Not worth
it's
it.
almost
Not worth it.
like, wow, you wouldn't want to go after like $500,000 on a grant from the federal government because the amount of work and the additional just the time that it takes.
Oversight.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this, on your background, and it's in our packet, letter of support you got from Congressman Stewart 2 days before he resigned. You also say the city's seeking similar letters of support from state and county representatives. Do you need any help in that process?
Nate has taken that responsibility. I think that he's going to the county commissioners. I think that we're asking Paul Cutler. He's been pretty quick and accessible to sign, but maybe Nate could answer if he needs help in that regard. We've given him that assignment.
Mayor, we actually sent you an email while you're on vacation. Haven't followed up with you yet, but yeah, Brant and I are asking for your help to go after some of these county and state representatives. So
I wish I'd looked at it, because I was with all 3 of our county commissioners. It wasn't on a vacation, it was a seminar, and I was with all 3 of them, so.
Yeah. So yes, we are going to ask for your help, and I can get with you later to follow up on that.
All right, appreciate it. Other questions?
Please define vacation. Switzerland or with your county commissioners?
George or Salt Lake.
You ready?
You
ready for a motion?
Yeah, if there's no other further questions, and let's get a motion on it.
I'll make a motion that we adopt resolution number 2023-25, authorizing the submittal of an application for grant funding from the U.S. Bureau of Reclamation for the Water Smart Drought Resiliency Program for the replacement of the Porter Lane well.
Second.
Motion is second. Councilman Ince, going to our right. Let's do a roll call.
Aye.
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 That passed unanimously. Thank you for your work on it. And hopefully there's nobody that slows you down. I'm referring to myself. I'll get with you, Nate. So, okay. Let's go to summary action. We have on here a purchase approval of community park lighting. We've talked about this in the past. We don't have Bruce here to answer questions, but I don't know if maybe somebody else could answer any questions you might have on this. But it looks like we have a recommendation, GSL Electric for 53 grand and Fronruch Lighting America for equipment and materials, $203,100. Questions that somebody might be able to ask or
My only question for
answer, excuse me.
Bruce is not here, right?
Yeah.
My only question is, did we only go to one contractor for bids?
Do we know? Bryce, do you know? You've perked up.
What was the question?
Wrong
All
perk.
right, we took you off guard.
Go up to the mic.
Well, I wanted to phone a friend because
Because the friends left the meeting.
he looked at the agenda and thought he wasn't going to be needed, but I'm like, that's on the agenda. I'm not 100% sure.
Okay.
I have the same
Step out and
question, just
ask.
check the procedure.
Well, statutorily,
Yeah,
part
our
of it, right?
process,
It's a twofold question.
yeah, our process is to have more than one bid for this.
Can we let
Or
Bryce
if it
check
had
on
to do
that?
formal bidding,
Yeah,
after the
I'd
next item?
prefer to do that, so give Bryce some time to phone a friend and then come back. Is that okay, Mayor?
well, I think you can approve it, but if we didn't follow our procurement policy, then we'll come back. But let's assume we did. There's a lot of exceptions.
Yeah.
While we go on,
Source.
you want to try and reach him? We probably shouldn't be doing that from up here, so. Do we want to come back to approve it? Till we get an answer on that, or?
Yeah.
I would suggest we do.
Would you like to do that?
Especially because we're over budget, that's part of my concern.
Okay. Let's move on from that, unless there's other questions on it. we wanted to ask? Okay.
Well, I
let's-
think the other question that came up when we talked about this was he was gonna check on the solar panels and wind, and he was gonna check with the suppliers on their durability, if I remember that
That's
conversation.
right, he
Oh, yeah,
was.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's why I'm surprised we have a quote and those questions haven't been answered.
okay, let's, see if we can swing back to that. Everybody circle it, remember to come back.
Are you
All
doing,
right.
are you doing a phone a friend or a recall a friend? Which, okay.
Yes.
All right, minutes. Let's approve the minutes of September 19th for the work session of the city council and the closed session. Do we have any changes to those minutes? If not, a motion to approve those minutes.
Make a motion to approve the minutes as filed for September 19th, work session, the city council meeting, and the closed session minutes.
I'll second that.
Motion is second. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Great. Let's go to our council report. So Council Member Hurst gets the chance this council meeting to report.
Okay. South Davis Sewer District, they will be doing, in order to fund the upgrades to the north plant, they're going to be going out for a bond for that. They are planning to raise property taxes. That'll be about $48 a year on a home that is valued at $556,000. So that'll be going out to users, I believe, in December. But just so you guys are aware, if anyone asks, that's what's happening there. And then Jewel Creek Irrigation Company will be shutting down on October 15th. They are still working on the secondary meters project. He said that the meters seem to be coming in fine. They did some kind of co-op with several irrigation companies in Utah, and the meters are fine, but it's the other parts, brass and iron, seem to be a bit of an issue, so, but they're moving through that. The other thing is, the bills have not come out yet, so we're at the end of the season, and they're gonna come out sometime in the next month, so.
And if you don't pay your bill and they turn your water, oh, your water was already turned off. Sorry.
Well,
don't
yeah,
have to
I
worry
guess,
about it
I
till
guess
next
they'll turn it
spring.
off for next year.
I was gonna say,
Loan for 6 months.
that takes kind of the incentive out of gathering up the money, because
Yeah, I know that there were some issues with some of the sizes of connections. They've been doing a bunch of cleanup. They also had some new subdivisions, and so, anyway, yeah, it's a volunteer organization, and I think they're doing it as quick as they can. So, but just so you are all aware, nobody has paid their bills yet this year, and when they're shocked,
Where do I get on that? On the south of, the north part of town? I have to pay my
the
bill.
north part of town has paid their bills, I'm sure. But that's what's going on there. Parks and Rec Committee, they have not met since summer ended, so I don't have anything to report on that yet. So
Of course, I have to pay for my own pile.
I'll do that next month if they meet this month.
I did listen to the meeting I missed regarding pickleball courts. That's a homework task for them.
Yes, it is, yeah, so, yeah.
Can I ask you a question about South Davis Sewer
Sure.
District? Now, I know we had, remind me of his first name.
Matt.
Matt,
Yeah.
reporting here recently.
Uh-huh.
But one of the things, when I was with the commissioners last week, we looked at a food recycling plant. And I know this is a sore spot, and he even addressed it, Matt did, with ours, in Boston, that was online and working great. I would imagine that they've gone out to some of these that are functioning or contacted these people. I mean, we spent probably 2-3 hours at this plant, and,
Yeah.
you know, and so I'm assuming they're, because I know they're still trying hard to get the bugs worked out.
Yeah, they are. And I think it's getting better, but it's, yeah, they're still working on it. This is, something I think that's a little more common in Europe, but not as common here in the US. And so just, it's a highly specialized field, and yeah, trying to get people in to help with it is,
Well, and it made sense they were doing it in Boston with more of that congestion
Yeah.
than us here. I mean, probably all those areas like that,
yeah,
they've come online with more of those processes, so.
yeah.
Any other questions, Councilwoman Hurst? All right, mayor report. 2 weeks ago, as one of my, we applied, there's this new, well, it's been around for about 4 or 5 years now, this new third quarter sales tax that the state legislature years ago enacted that counties could use for new, and we elected to do it for new road projects. And so I know we put in for it for the 1250 West, but didn't get it a couple of years ago. And so we didn't put in a project this year. And so as one of the mayors that I was on the board to go look at these projects, the people that have put in. So we actually went on a field trip one day and looked at some of these projects. And I don't know how, I don't get out, and I guess I should more to the northwest part of our county, but if you think we have growth here, I mean, that growth out there in Syracuse and West Point and that sort of stuff is just incredible. I mean, that's where most of these projects were, you know, taking country roads into highways, and with the West Davis corridor going through there, it was quite interesting getting out and seeing some of those projects. I'll report on when we're meeting again on October 11th, and then we'll bring it before COG on October 18th. I'll report who was awarded those projects and where those will be going in at that point in time. The chief and I yesterday met with other mayors and police chiefs with Communities That Cares organization over in Bountiful with their program that you know, the state has asked the communities have this you know, wellness programs within their community. They've done some learning to breathe sessions in our elementary school. I got a follow-up email today, and so we have a new director in our part of the South Davis part of the 5 cities down here, and so I'll report back to you some of the programs that she'll be rolling out. As you know, we had a fire at Cedar Springs, and I got in late that night, but got up in that morning after and seen the text and ran over there, and our fire force had done a wonderful job. The chief was there along with 3 or 4 of our officers, and there was also an LDS bishop that was there, seeing where he could help, and an elders quorum president from that LDS ward. And I was just felt so fortunate that we live in a community that there's number one, the fire, and then the police looking out for these people, and then other organizations looking out for these people. Chief, did they determine that all 10 units were not usable, or is the 2 end units, were they usable?
Well, there still needs to be some evaluation done on that. The very end units got the least. Yeah, sorry.
Just have a mic back there.
We're just trying to provide you guys your exercise.
Yeah, it's okay, I needed it. Yeah, so we know that the fire originated in unit number 7. The fire was being pushed towards the west, so unit 8 received significant damage, 7 was completely destroyed, 6 as well. As it worked towards the west, going towards number 1, 1 and 2 and 10 were the least damaged. Probably 10 is the least of all. But they had to cut a hole in the roof right above around 2 to 3, and they put 7,000 gallons of water on the roof. So between water damage, smoke damage, the utilities, the utilities to the building are completely shut off. If it's habitable at all, it's gonna be some time before those utilities can be restored and any water damage repaired. If there's, if they're able to save units 1 and 2 and 10, the others are definitely gonna have to be pretty much, especially 6, 7, and 8, or will have to be completely rebuilt. So there is a possibility they'll probably, they may have to tear the entire building down.
Any cause yet? I know I asked that question, but.
Yeah, it's still under investigation. I don't want to give any information out yet because it's still preliminary.
Because when was our last fire at Cedar Springs feels very recent.
Yeah, it was last December. Do you guys remember? It was during the winter, last winter. This was unit or building number E, and towards the north is building F, and that's where we had a fatal. Similar damage, not quite as heavy damage as what we have in E this time. They were able to put that building back together, F building, and it's occupied. But right now, it's pretty much completely, E is completely boarded up. All units are boarded up. Well, I take that back. I think 1 and 10 are not boarded up, but most of them are boarded up right now.
Those are 2 on the end.
Not boarded up,
Runs,
not habitable
runs east
either.
and west, that E building.
Yeah,
does.
so our building inspector was called out. I called him on Sunday, and he came out. He would have done a red tag on the buildings, but I'm assuming that he allowed entrance into 1 and 10. So the other ones are restricted. I know the residents were very anxious to get into the units that they could get into to get their personal belongings out if possible. I talked with the fire marshal, Cole, today, and he was trying to work something out to where they could get in, those residents, into the units that were still intact enough you could get inside safely. Cole Fessler, the fire marshal, was working on that. It's heavily damaged. So,
Thanks, Chief.
thank you.
And the last thing I had, just a reminder to you tomorrow, congressional candidate Malloy is going to be at our library for the public at 5:30. We can meet with her at 4:30. It does involve the other, they invited the mayors and the council of the 5 cities in South Davis, if any of you are able to make that, so.
Lisa, I asked the question, if more than 2 of us are gonna be there, do we need to notice that?
Yeah,
Well, if you're not talking about city business,
We can go to anything like that as long as we together don't discuss city business.
I've talked to her,
tempting.
I've talked to her 2 or 3 times, and I thought Mike has as well too, about the tank grant, so, so we're always nudging her about that, but, so we're okay then, if they want to come,
Yes.
if there's more than two that come. I guess we're not restricted from being citizens and exercising our right to listen to
Yeah, you can
county.
go to social events and other things like this, but you just can't conduct city business.
All right, any other questions for me?
Yep, the other question was, did we, Bryce, nail down a date? We're gonna do, speaking of field trips, all these field trips you're doing, Mayor, to do a field trip to Young Power Sports?
Have not finalized that
Okay.
yet.
We
We have some dates, but
a few
nothing
dates, yeah.
finalized.
Okay.
I do have all of you purchased for the GALA event at the Center Point. Want to be politically correct, because I don't know which one it is either, so.
But I'm glad you brought that up,
The
because
date on that again?
October 26th.
For the gala.
Depends how fun it is.
You aware of that?
I also want to bring up, thanks for bringing that up, October 27th is Young Power Sports grand opening. And I'm not going to be available, so they'd like a 2 to 5 minute speech if there's anybody that would like to give that, so.
It'll have to be somebody that owns a power sport, I think.
Well,
Not me.
they want to have our relationship with Young Power Sports.
Councilman, you have a
They're
boat?
not asking.
They have a boat, they don't sell boats.
I'd love to do, I'd love to take a snowmobile part.
Not a boat.
So,
I was just deferring, I think, Councilmember Hurst said they have a little Ranger or something like that.
Yeah, we have some power sports stuff.
I'm a customer, I can go.
my tongue's hanging out looking at some of those snowmobiles down there.
Yeah, there's a lot of fun stuff, I'm sure.
So anyway, I do need, I'll talk with Brent about that as well too, but if there's anybody that's so inclined that wants to speak at that event, you'd be sure welcome, so,
That's what day, what night?
October 27th.
27.
That's the same night as a GALA?
Night after.
No, it's the day before.
No,
It's the day after.
The gala is on the 27th, no?
I thought it was
Yeah.
the 20.
The 27th's in my calendar.
It's the 20, I think it's the 27th, because it's Friday
Says
night.
26th
Well, that's what I would, you
Oh,
said
we
that.
got-
Correct.
Yeah, you're right,
The center
sorry.
point's at 27th.
Oh, great, you'd have had me all down there on the wrong night.
this is during the day, the grand opening ceremony.
What time is it during the day?
11 to 1 on October 27th. The Young Power Sports grand opening ceremony is 11 to 1.
Sorry, I was wrong. October 27th. Sorry.
So that's at night, this is during the day.
Same day,
Yeah.
different.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Nope, that's it. Do you have a city manager report for us?
I don't have an official one,
Okay.
but I did spend the day yesterday with our insurance company and toured the city and inspected a lot of properties, and it was a great visit. We spent it in the rain. We were both drenched. It was incredible, but we had an opportunity to go with our insurance and see all the properties and get a report. So I'll have an official report back to you when it gets.
Okay. Don't leave, because we're swinging back now to the summary action calendar, and if we got any more on the community park lighting.
Yeah, so Bruce did tell me he got 2 other bids. They were twice as much as the one that you've seen on the agenda.
So you come back with the wind loading information for the solar panels and
No,
that?
no.
Is this something you want to vote on, or you want to table until we get more information?
Is it gonna cause a problem if we table it?
That's right, I think it would need to get going.
Yeah.
If I remember from previous meetings.
That said, I hate to spend that money if it's not at the wind rating that we need for this
Right.
area.
Well, you could approve it subject to staff confirming the wind load is acceptable and that the procurement policy procedures have been met. Unless you have any other issues with it. If those are the two, I think staff can follow up on those, but if you have additional items, then we can table. I don't know about the urgency of getting going on this. I don't know.
Did not either, sorry.
Is this something we're planning to do before the end of the construction season?
Is there money for this?
Yeah.
We're
We're
at
over
256.
We're over budget, so there'll be a budget amendment.
Budget amount's 225. Is that right, Nate?
I would be inclined to table it and get the budget amendment ready at the same time.
I think
One set of actions.
we can have Bruce come back and clarify the wind rating, just to be clear.
I'd like to know.
Okay, motion to table it?
And if you could specify those things,
Yes.
staff to come back with the wind load rating, compliance with our procurement policy, and budget amendment.
Okay. I'll make a motion that we table this item.
Nate might want to comment on the budget amendment.
Oh, okay.
Hey Nate, can you come up here, please? Yeah.
Even though it's over budget on that line, we may have available funds, so it may not require a budget amendment,
Okay.
but depending on how the pickleball court plays out, it may require it. So just depending on the availability of funds of monies within that fund, it may or may not require a budget
That's why you
amendment.
kind of like to lump
We
those
just
later in.
wait a little longer? Is that
So
what you're
I'm just
saying?
curious, was the pun intentional or
Yeah.
unintentional?
Unintentional. Unintentional.
I'll make a motion that we table this item for purchase of new solar lighting for Community Park contingent upon staff providing wind load ratings and procurement,
Compliance with.
compliance with procurement.
The time being the next council meeting, the tabling until the next council
Yeah,
meeting? or-
let's
okay.
do the next
Let's do
council
next
meeting.
meeting.
Second.
Motion and second for discussion. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Thanks, Bryce, for
Thanks.
following up on that. Okay, haven't heard that we have a closed session, so any other, anything else we need to cover? Not, motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Council's adjourned.